Hello, and welcome to Jason Cabin Experience. I'm a retired U.S. Army officer and CEO founder of Cabinets HR. At Cabinets HR, we provide HR to companies with 49 or fewer people by combining an AI tech platform with an HR business partner. The Jason Cabinets Experience is brought to you by BreezeDocs. BreezeDocs is the leading RFP response platform for small and medium-sized businesses. Mention the Jason Cabinets Experience and receive 3 months free usage of BreezeDocs and free onboarding and data migration services for any subscription. To learn more, check out the QR code on the screen. Also, Cabinets HR is hosting an event for Seattle Tech Week called Cabinets HR, Seattle's Got Tech. It will be 10 tech startups doing a demo of what they're building, followed by a keynote. Go to the QR code on the screen to apply. Our guest today is Syed. Syed, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go up just a little bit more.
Well, my background is in filmmaking.
Yeah.
Jason, I came to US in 2015, specifically Tacoma from India. My background, is also in international affairs, so I bring those two experiences together, and always been an attempt to work at that intersection, and I have succeeded only in the last 14 or 15
Yes.
months. Because for the most part, I was in international education and international affairs, helping American colleges and universities to develop international programs and help them internationalize their program. But in the last 14, 15 months, I've been working in the creative economy, where education is a big part, but creative economy is really very interesting here in Washington State. 10% of our GDP is creative economy, which is the highest in the country. And I want to build that. I want to leverage that, especially for our city, Tacoma.
So we're gonna do a deep dive of everything you're doing, but first, you're doing a lot, right? We're talking about, but how do you take care of yourself, right? Like either physically or mentally. Like how do you make sure that you're the best possible version of yourself to do all the stuff you're doing?
What a great question. I listen to poetry, and that really keeps me sane. Every day I listen to some poetry or I read some poetry. I also love music. And our city, Tacoma, is gorgeous. A lot of beautiful parks. So I keep very close to nature. And I would say one of the other thing that has been surprisingly amazing is listening to birds. I think lots of us miss out on that. Just sit under the tree and try to listen to some bird and see what happens to your life.
Are you able to know the type of bird it is based on what you hear?
No,
You're not
no,
there yet.
no, not there yet. I have just started reading a couple of books on birds, but it doesn't really matter. I think just listening to birds and just watching them, their movement. If you ever look at hummingbird, just look at them for a minute.
Oh man, they're so fast.
They are so fast and so precise, and just something happens to you. It really keeps you sane, and it really something to your mental health.
And you're also like an avid bike rider, aren't you? I thought I saw a post you you ride a bike around your neighborhood every day or
A
something.
little bit. I'm not a expert of biking, but I do bike.
Okay.
I have bikes. I have some friends who are fond of biking, so I hang out with them and ride around.
And do you have a favorite poet that you?
Oh, I have many favorite poets. A lot of them are in India, where I grew up. But it really, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you engage in poetry and see how words come together and they describe. And one of the most fascinating things about poetry is that perhaps it's the only form of art that squeezes and summarizes centuries into 2 lines. We spend 5 years, 10 years to do PhD to learn about a field. Poets can do that in 2 lines, 2 verses, 1 paragraph, sometimes just 2 or 3 words put together, and that is an art in itself. And it's
What's amazing me, do you have these poets for back in the 1400s, 1500s that we still listen to, or not listen to, but no still read, right? And I think, man, do these poets have any idea the impact they would have hundreds of years later, right? Some random dude in India or England or whatever case, writing these words down, thinking to themselves, he's probably saying, man, I need to make some money today, right? But literally a century later, people still read what they wrote.
Yeah, because they have universal truth. That's one of the other things. Poets are social scientists. They know societies, they know human beings, they know how human mind works, how connection people work. They are very good at it. These are some of the core skills. It's hard to become a poet if you don't understand humans. It's very hard to become human poet if you don't understand how societies work, how change happens. These are the very core of becoming a poet. and poets speak universal language. It doesn't matter where they
Yeah,
are.
I don't know if he's a poet, but I'm a big fan of Voltaire from France back in the day. I really like his stuff. Like, say, I studied him in college, so I'm a big fan of Voltaire.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite one?
I have many.
Many.
Iqbal is one of my
Okay.
favorites in India, but I also like Bashir Badr. I love Rumi.
Rumi,
I
okay,
think
I know
Rumi
that
is
name.
amazing. I think Rumi is very well known here in the West, in the Western culture, but there are many other that my father used to read, my mom used to read, recite these poets. They are not very well known.
Yeah.
Iqbal, Bashir Badr. I love Mirza Ghalib,
Mm.
who writes a lot about life and romance and the intersection of life and romance.
Do you know like any kind of difference between American poets and Indian poets, or is poetry poetry?
Uh, I think their approach to life is very different because of the culture.
Mm-hmm.
India, for example, is a highly collective culture. People live together, they share things together, um, and a lot of things are just given to them as part of their life. It just comes with it. You have a lot of social support because you live in big families. It's a big country, so it's very
Yeah.
populated. So you're born with this idea of human connections by default. So you see a lot of celebration of that in the poetry coming out of India or South Asia, whereas here you see a lot of poetry around nature,
Mm-hmm.
solitude,
Yeah.
and idea of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
It's very well articulated because it's very intentional. You don't get friends by default. You have to make friends. You have
Yeah.
to go
You have to
connect
make
with
an
them.
effort.
You need effort
Yeah.
because the culture is such that you need a lot of effort,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a very clear intentionality and processes to have good friends. Whereas in collective culture, friends are all over you, left, right, and center. You interact so much, and because the cities are big,
Mm-hmm.
there are so many people. You just by default become friends, and it's not something that you think a lot about. Only when you move away, like I did. That's one of the things that immigrants very quickly realize when they move away from collective cultures and come to individualistic culture like the US. You realize how much was there,
Mm-hmm.
how the richness in your immediate environment. You miss it so
Mm-hmm.
much in terms of food, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
just the sounds.
Yeah.
You go to Delhi where I grew up, 33 million people. At any given point of time, you are listening to 50 sounds. You're talking to somebody, but you're also listening to birds. Some dog is barking. There is traffic. Somebody's talking. There are 5, 6 conversations that you're exposed to, and sound system that you're exposed to. Here, suddenly you come in a very silent space. Like you and I are talking,
Mm-hmm.
I can't hear anything. I know this is a studio, this is exceptionally quiet. But otherwise, if you walk down the street, you hear very similar sounds.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter whether you are in Dallas or you're in Seattle or you're in New York City. The sounds are very standardized. Whereas where I grew up, you walk, you go away from one place to another place, which is let's say 5 miles away. Suddenly, the taste of the water changes, the food changes, people look differently, people wear different clothing. Um, Also, the sound changes, dramatically. It's completely different exposure.
So, what's something about India that you wish more Americans knew about?
Say that again.
What's something about India that you wish more people knew about?
That most people,
That
I thought
that you
they
wish
knew.
that you wish more people knew.
I wish more people knew about India. Uh, well, there are many things. I think there are a lot of things that people think is all India about: yoga, spirituality, temples, Taj Mahal. These are very well known. But I think one thing that people don't know India about is the the amount of investment, emotional investment that people put in their relationship, how far they go just to take care of their near and dear ones. Also, because it is very collective culture, the amount of time and energy and social capital that you invest in different phases of your life. So if I have a, let's say, a 5-year-old niece, a 6-year-old nephew, there are certain level of investment that I do for that person. When I go to India, I spend time with them, go hang out with them, take them on a bike ride, take them on a train ride. But my parents, for example, my mom, she's in her late 80s. The kind of connection we have for her, just to make sure that she doesn't feel lonely, that she doesn't feel vulnerable, that she doesn't feel like there's nobody to take care of her. The amount of stuff we put in just to make sure that she doesn't feel that. I think most people don't really recognize that in collective culture overall, but specifically about India.
Yes. So on your bio, it says that you're focused on empowering young people to make informed career decisions. Can you go to do a deep dive into what does that even mean?
Yes, I mean that's one of my favorite parts with young people. You know, if you look at some of the data which inspired me to work that work is so for example, if you look at the college data, how many students are graduating from college, and then what are they studying in college and what are they doing in workplaces? There's a major disconnect. According to several data sets, anywhere between 70 to 85% of college graduates enter workplaces that has nothing to do with their major or minor.
Yeah, I know me personally, every college kid I know that graduates for 5 years, none of them are doing the degree. Like
No.
zero of them.
And that's
None
a
of them.
problem. And that's a major problem because that's a loss of so much stuff, you know. And imagine we just don't go to college, you know, you don't just finish high school and straight go to college. You spend a lot of time in high school thinking about college. At least 1 year, 2 years, in many cultures more. You know, some kids or families start thinking about college when they're in the middle school, especially in India and countries like China. So you're thinking about college for 2 years, when you last 2 years of your high school, and then you go to college for 4 years at least. Sometimes 5 years, 6 years, 8 years. But let's just take the best case scenario. You go to a college and you finish in 4 years, and you study something, and then you go to a workplace that has nothing to do with what you study. So that's a major disconnect, and that's where the informed decision making comes. And I do that by helping young people do projects, internship, introducing them to people like you. You know, if somebody's interested in doing podcasts, or they want to play around with media and they see themselves as a media producer, they should come here and hang out with people like you. They should help you produce this podcast, they should help you narrate, and that will give them so much clarity of whether this is for them or not for them. You know, because these decisions are being made very early on. The 16, 17, 18, 19-year old is deciding what he or she wants to do in life on the basis of what? What is the basis on which you're saying, I want to become a doctor, I want to become an engineer, I want to become a film? What is the basis? The basis is one or two courses you took, one or two classes you took, or your mom taught you something, or your dad taught you something, or you went for a boot camp, or you did some summer. That's not enough. You are exposing yourself to a very small, the length and breadth of your experience is very little. You are using it to take a very long term decision. That's the problem. You have a short term exposure, and you're using it to take long term decision. That's a major problem. That's where that work comes. How do you make informed decisions? What do you do so that if you decide to study marketing, it is an informed decision? You love marketing, you go and you do well in marketing, and you stay in that career for at least for few years. I'm not saying you should marry that career. You don't have to be in marketing for 40 years. On an average, you know, in the student advising world, there's a term called portfolio career, which basically means that on an average, a person in today's day and age does not stick with one career or two or three. It's about 7 to 10 careers in your lifetime. So when you're deciding what career you want to go in, the old style of doing it is that I have to pick one career and I'm going to stay in that career. That happened to my dad. Picked up a job and retired from that job 40, 50 years. That happened to my father-in-law. He joined Boeing, retired after 40 years. It doesn't happen anymore. We changed 6 to 7 careers, and the prediction is that it is going to double in the next 5 to 6 years. So it means when you're thinking of career, you have to think of 10 to 15 careers that you're going to navigate. What are those careers going to be? How do you make that decision? And at what time will you do the transition? That all of that is making informed decisions.
So, what's your take on the future of higher education? Because sometimes, like with YouTube University, all the free stuff out there, and the high increase in prices, sometimes this seems like it's got becoming like a dead institution, so to speak. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you. Pretty much the inertia in higher education is just so high. The pace with which the technology is changing, the pace with which the world of work is changing, higher ed is not changing at that pace, and that's a problem. And take a very simple example. I don't know, 2, 3 decades ago, universities were taking 4 years to get their kids graduate. They're still taking 4 years. Does it ever happen anywhere else? I mean, you are producing that podcast. If you were to produce this 20 years ago, the amount of money you had to spend, the amount of technology you're recording it, you can go live. None of it was possible.
Yeah.
Now, new technology came, you embrace, you use, and you produce content at much lower price, quicker, faster. You publish it faster. So you're embracing technology. Why is higher ed not doing it? Because of the inertia. So I think my response to your question is, what is the future of higher ed? I think the future of higher ed is skill-based work, education that also aligned with the future of work. So work and education has to go hand in hand. It would be very difficult for colleges to simply go to student and say, look, our job is to just teach you. What you do with the teaching, none of our business. That's not going to work. According to many statistics, in America alone, one college is shutting down every week. Every week we are shutting down a college. What does it mean to that community? I mean, imagine if you have a college, let's say, in Tacoma, for example, we have a bunch of colleges. Every college employs people. They support local community. It's the loss of that community because the model is bad. So it's in the interest of the higher ed to improve their model, not just for their own financial sustainability, but also for the communities they are part of. They create jobs, they bring economic development. Students come from different parts of the country. Sometimes they come from different part of the world. They add to the culture of that community. And if that college shuts down, it's a major loss for that community. And I don't think colleges are thinking of their value in these terms. They're mostly stuck to this old idea of, we are degree giving people. You come, you enroll, you pay, and then once you're done, we'll give you the piece of paper. You're on your own. They don't have skin in the game. I think the future of higher ed or any ed is, what is often termed as revenue share agreements, which means that I am a college and I'll say, Jason, come study. You don't have to pay anything, but if we select you, come. My course is free for you. Finish it off, complete it with good grade, and pay back once you get a job.
Okay.
So I'm getting paid when you're getting paid, which means I'm going to do everything to make sure that what you're studying is relevant, it's aligned with the industry, and it also makes you a better ambassador of my university. So when you go out and say, I went there to that college, my brand gets promoted. More and more colleges are not doing that, and I think they will have to do it.
And how does college? I'm gonna probably say this wrong. Your company, College A and Branta, play a role in this.
Yeah, so Branta is a company. This is a consulting company that I started, and we do a lot of project-based work. College is just a trade name, but all of the project-based work is that we do is part of part of one of the programs, which is helping young people to validate what careers they want to go in. And the method we use is project. We want them to do project. If you want to produce a podcast, go hang out with Jason, spend time with him, ask him questions. How was your first podcast? How was your 40th podcast? Where did you get the equipment? How do you upgrade your equipment? The project-based work. And then decide whether it's for you or not. Spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks with professional and then say, no, this is not what I thought it is. Which is what happens when you graduate from college and you enter a workplace that has nothing to do with your major or minor. What you're basically saying, it's not for me. My logic is that you shouldn't take 4 years to validate. You should validate in a matter of few months.
I think the best or worst example of this is lawyers, right? I know so many people, I won't go to law school, right? They finish law school and first 2 months, oh my God, this is horrible. I wasted the last 6 years of my life.
Yeah, no, that's true for law. I think is just notorious for that. And if you ask, for example, I think there was a research in one of the books, Excellent Sheep, I believe, Bill's book, in which he interviewed a whole bunch of lawyers, and I think the 55% of the bar members recommend kids not to become lawyers.
Yeah, I know, right?
And I think I would be surprised if doctors say the same. And
yeah.
But interestingly, the thing is that when you say lawyer, you're talking to a lawyer. What kind of lawyer are you talking about?
It plays a role.
You could have a lawyer who who wanted to become a filmmaker, but was somehow decided to become a lawyer because his dad was a successful lawyer, or somebody in the family convinced that person that no, become a lawyer and you will make a lot of money, you will travel, or whatever. He got or she got sold onto this idea. So let's just say that person was not cut for law. But I have met several lawyers who love law. My goodness, they talk about law like it's a romantic film they have seen. They love it. They see social justice in it. They see history in it. They read about law all the time. They watch law related movies. Their genre is, legal thriller. They can go on and on.
Yeah.
You can look them in the eye and say how much do they love what they are doing. Whereas, there are other people who just do it for the heck of it. It really depends who you're talking with. Again, it all goes down to, have you validated it? How did you know that you would become a successful lawyer? What does it take to be a lawyer? What do lawyers really do? What impact do they make? I don't think young people really think too much about
Yeah,
it.
cause you see all the Matlock, West LA law, all the fancy stuff. They don't see the the nonsense like the paperwork, the admin stuff. The hours and hours of research. And.
Yeah, and also, this is law is really, when you become a lawyer, you're really solving people's problems.
Hmm.
It's a problem solving issue, and people are coming with terrible situations.
Yeah.
I don't go to a lawyer when I'm really happy and
No,
there's
something
great.
bad usually happen, right?
It usually something bad
Yeah.
happens. I mean, there are other forms of law where, like, for example, doing paperwork and all that. But really, for the most part, lawyers are involved when some serious thing has happened. You're supposed to come in, and there are fighting parties involved.
Yeah.
Very likely, somebody close to you.
Yeah.
Who you have a difference with,
Exactly.
a conflict. So imagine yourself, you're always surrounded by this environment where fighting parties come to you and you have to resolve it. And this is also true for doctors, for example. Now, hospital is not a happy place.
You're not going to a doctor. Hey! I feel the best I ever felt in my life.
You never go to a hospital because, I'm just gonna hang out.
Yeah.
So imagine, as a doctor or as a nurse, what environment are you surrounded with? You're surrounded with people who have serious health issues, or their families who are sad because somebody else has a health issue. So is this something that you can take? Can you be happy in that environment? So not only do you have to operate and work in this environment, you also want to add some humor and some happiness and give hope to people who are in your environment, who have little hope, or
Yes.
their hope is dented in some ways. They're not totally happy. So it's like a dual job. But some people are very good at it. They are just amazing. I've met some of the nurses and some of the doctors. They are just wonderfully hopeful people, and that one characteristic that parents, school counselors, family members don't talk about when they talk to young people and say, Jason, you're a very hopeful person. And you're always optimistic. You don't give up easily. You might want to think about a career that aligns very strongly with your core characteristics. We don't align it. And this idea of using what you're good at for your career is called capitalization rate. And this idea of capitalization rate is very simple. What are you good at? Align it with the long-term things. If Tiger Woods, for example, was very young, very, very young, and his father saw something in him and said, my kid has that talent, I'm going to help him become a golf player. And he took him around. Everywhere he went, he took his son. He identified anything and everything related to golf. He spoke to coaches, he took him to tournament. He just gave him that environment, and he became great because he had it and somebody recognized it. He capitalized on his strength, and we don't do it very well. We don't do it with cities, we don't do it with countries, we don't do it with students, we don't do it with universities. And I don't know why we are so bad at capitalizing on our strength. Tacoma, for example, coming back to my city and working on the project that I'm working on, I believe that Tacoma's most important strengths are its location. Tacoma has amazing waterfront, it has mountains, it has indoor spaces, outdoor spaces. Tacoma has amazing location. It's right between Portland and Seattle, two important cities. It's not too far from Vancouver, British Columbia, which is the third biggest film hub in North America. Tacoma also has these long summers. Our lights, amazing light. This is one of the best lighting situation in a city like Tacoma in summer. And we have long summers. Sun sets at 10 p.m. You have all the time. And more than anything else, we have a history of film, silent films, all kind of films. And then we have an artistic community. Now, if you look at the city and say, what are the natural endowment of this city and what should this city leverage? I can't think of anything else more than creative economy. And yet, I don't think we are leveraging it as much as we should. I mean, we have public schools, but all cities need public schools. We have hospitals. One of our biggest employers is multi-care, but all cities have all cities have hospitals. So there are certain standard industries that all cities need, irrespective of their natural endowment. But then there are natural strengths, and we should look at it from the perspective of capitalization rate. Malcolm Gladwell has written a lot on this. David and Goliath, one of his books, Outlier, and he has done a couple of podcasts as well, and where he has spoken about this idea of capitalization rate. We should capitalize on our strength.
So I think the term creative gets thrown around a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what actually is a creative? What makes someone a creative?
Well, people will have different definitions. My idea of a creative person is anybody who can produce something. If you can create something that wasn't there. This podcast wasn't there. I hadn't come to you before. We had never had a conversation. You just created it. You are a creative person for me. You created it. It wasn't there yesterday. It wasn't there. Today it's there, and it's gonna be there, and it will have an impact on people's lives. Somebody would listen to us. They might reach out to you. They might reach out to me. So anything that anybody who can create something that wasn't there and something that also has an impact, that person, to my mind, is a creative person.
So why do you think since the beginning of human history we've always wanted to be entertained? What's about humans that we have to be entertained? Even back, Roman times, Egyptian times, way back, cavemen used to draw paintings. Like, why do we need to be entertained?
I don't know. Why do we need to be entertained? I think that's we are just designed to interact. I think, and it's very difficult to interact with your community, with your environment, with your people around you if you're not entertained. It's terribly painful to live your life without being entertained. Entertainment doesn't necessarily mean watching a film or watching a performance. Entertainment also means relaxation. Entertainment also being aware of your environment, having a good conversation, having a meaningful relationship, reading a book that touches your heart, and then finding somebody who you can talk to about the book that you read. I think all of this is, in my mind, quote unquote entertainment. I know entertainment industry likes to talk about entertainment in a very specific product and services way. Entertainment for the film industry is films. Entertainment for music industry is music. Entertainment for dancing world is dance performances. But I think conversation is an entertainment. I get some of my best entertainment when I meet people who are like-minded, who feel for some of the same issues I feel, who stand up for social justice. I get entertained by people who love history. I just met with a friend, Marie, and she and I were talking about the importance of history and historians. That whole conversation, I was with her for about an hour. It was just as good as I had the same feeling as I would have if I watch a great film. Same feeling, same emotion. I get high, I get in the state of flow. The state of flow they have spoken a lot about. How do you get in the state of flow is when you are engaged, when you derive meaning, or when you are entertained.
So whether deserved or not, Tacoma does not have the best reputation. Like, how does Tacoma overcome this and, become a better city, so to speak?
Well, the fact that Tacoma did not have a good reputation in the past, I think it has come very far. That's part of the story, and that's what I love. I'm an outsider. I had no relationship with Tacoma. I moved from India in 2015. I had visited Tacoma only once for a very short duration of time when I first came. I was here, my wife grew up here, her parents used to live here, and then her dad got a job, they moved to California. So my exposure to Tacoma was very little, just I believe a few weeks, and then I went back to India, and then we decided to come back here. I love that story. I think the fact that Tacoma in the mid 70s, 80s, it was one of the most dangerous cities in the country. It was one of the most stressful cities. There was crime, there was drugs, there were drug wars, all of that. From that point all the way to now, what a great story. I mean, imagine if it were a human being, it would inspire you. I mean, imagine Tacoma as being a person who was into drugs, who was into guns, who was stinky, who had a certain bad, Tacoma aroma, all of these bad things. And then suddenly you meet that person again, and suddenly that person is one of the celebrities, one of the biggest influencers, who is number 3 on CNN Travel. Would it not inspire you? I mean, I think it's a great story. Yes, we had a bad past, and a lot of it is still there. But name a city which doesn't have it. I was in London, I went to LA. Any of the cities, anywhere in the world, have some problems. All cities have problems. Some have more, some have less, some have historical problems that they have not been able to solve. I think Tacoma has done an excellent job in solving some of its most pressing problems. It has come a far, 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 far from that bad, terrible situation.
So what's going on in Tacoma right now that you're really proud of? Like, okay, Tacoma, Tacoma got this right.
I think Tacoma has really nurtured its artistic community. People feel very good about all of the kind of events we do. Their art festival, their amazing waterfront. I think city has done a great job.
That waterfront is so outstanding. Like Russian Way, it's like I need to spend more time there. This restaurant was just so beautiful. Just like
Isn't
yeah,
it? But you know that same place, how bad it was back in
I,
the
I
day,
heard. Yeah, I heard.
where Dune Peninsula is. That's where Frank Herbert was.
Okay.
That's the place that inspired him to write Dune.
Oh, I
He
didn't
used
know
to
that.
live there. He used to watch all that smelter and bad smell. That's what inspired him to do. The bad thing inspired him. But today it's one of the most gorgeous places.
Yeah, it's so beautiful
I mean,
there.
it's being ranked as, I think, one of the magazines or blog post ranked the sunset is one of the most beautiful in
Yes.
the country. People come out there, they play. There are amazing businesses there. There are art studios, there are apparel shop, there are places to play, and they're great apartments.
Have you ever been to the ice cream place there?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man,
The
that like the
social ice
summertime.
cream.
In the summertime, that line is so long.
Yeah, social ice cream. Yeah, yeah. But you know, I think that's where my storytelling perspective comes in filmmaking. That you stories, great stories have great conflict. Great stories have great transformation. And Tacoma is such a great story. And going back to your question again, what is it that Tacoma is doing right? I think city of Tacoma is doing a great job in revitalizing some of the spaces. You know, we have amazing parks. You know, how many parks are there? And they're all being used. I live not too far from Titlo Beach, which back in the day used to be really bad, stinky, not kept well. And the other part that people often don't recognize is that all of these bad things that were in the past, they have been transformed into good things. Who did it? The people did it. Community did it. You know, cities like Detroit, for example, was so dependent on one big company, Ford Motors. When Ford Motors came, the city thrived. When Ford Motor left, went down in the gutter. That's not Tacoma. Tacoma's story is the story of its people, its community. They all got together, you know, they volunteered. And I have seen the spirit of volunteerism in Tacoma is amazing. I'm involved in several non-profit. I'm on the board of several non-profit. It amazes me how much people are willing to give their time to, give their money to, and just do it because it is good for the city. That love for Tacoma, that I think it needs a culture, and something has happened in Tacoma that has inculcated that culture. Not very many cities have done it.
So talk about nonprofits. Talk about your role. I think I'm gonna say this wrong. Tacoma Kachi Friendship City Committee.
Yeah, Kochi. So Kochi
Kochi.
is one of the cities in India. It's the southern city. It's one of the cities in the state of Kerala, which is one of the most gorgeous places in India. I am the chair of Tacoma Kochi. The Sister Cities is an international non-profit. I am part of the Tacoma Sister Cities. Sister Cities was started as a non-profit in 1956, I believe, by President Eisenhower. And the goal was very simple: to connect people to people. So how do we connect cities of America? How do we connect American cities with cities of rest of the world, so that they can work together, they can have exchanges, they can have dialogue, they can take things to each other's city and promote each other's local businesses and culture. That was the idea, and it has come so far. The Tacoma Sister Cities, we have about 16 sister city relationship across the world. Kochi is the latest one. I went to India and we signed a relationship with Kochi. My role really is to bring and we call them sister cities because they are sisters in some way. They're similar. So, for example, why Kochi? Why did I choose Kochi? Because Kochi is also a port city like Tacoma. Kochi is very artistic. It's one of the film cities in India. So the art of filmmaking is there. We have the art of glass blowing and so many other art forms. Um, so that was the idea, to find a city that you can learn from, that can give you something, that you can give to, something somewhere where there could be a good, healthy exchange of ideas and products and services. So that's what Kochi is, one of our sister cities, and I'm very happy to be the chair, and I'm bringing other people on board.
And you're actually a trained filmmaker, correct?
I'm also trained.
So like from school, you train yourself.
Yeah.
How does one become a trained filmmaker? And what does that mean?
There are two ways. I went through the old-fashioned way. I went to the film school in India, and that's how I do not recommend that anymore. If you want to become a filmmaker, go hang out with hang out on a film set, find out a filmmaker, spend time with them. And this is what I'm doing, and some of my friends are doing. We are working together in Tacoma. A lot of us are filmmakers. Many of us have gone to film schools, and we just believe that that was not necessary. That was not the best way. There is a better way, cheaper way, faster way to learn film, which is hang out with filmmakers, spend time on the stage, read, watch films, watch lots of films, watch documentaries about the making of the films. So if you can find any documentary that shows how this particular film was made, watch interviews of filmmakers, read scripts, read original screenplays. That's how you become a filmmaker. And also, so that's the technical side of it, like filmmaker meaning direction, production, cinematographer. There are lots of aspects of what do you mean by filmmaker. You are a filmmaker if you write script, you're a filmmaker if you're a producer, you're a filmmaker if you're a director, actor, there are many ways. But I think the most important thing is to learn the art and craft of becoming a film producer, because that covers everything, the entire gamut of filmmaking. And once you do that, you will know what you're good at. Again, going back to the validation point. So if you give yourself 6-7 months or a year and say, I want to learn how to be a producer, and you go through the whole pre-production, production, and post-production stages, it is very likely that something will pop up to you and say, I want to do this. I want to do writing. I love writing. Or I want to do cinematography. I love camera. I want to play more with camera. I want to see what angles we can use. Or you could get into lighting and say, I love the idea of lighting. Like some people will walk into this room and they will not be interested in anything, but they'll say, 3 lighting, 1 key light. They would just observe all of it. They will observe these lights. You and I are not doing it because it's not appealing to us. Some people do that. Other people will come and they'll just say, there were 3 cameras and they were all facing the left of the subject, and there was 1 camera here. We could have done that. Their mind will start,
Yeah, all this can get very technical.
Can we take that camera over there? Can we have a
Yeah.
low angle shot? They will think like that, and that's what I call validation.
Okay.
Something is picking you without you doing anything. They are just, and you are being attracted to that thing. Then go there. Then think of cinematography.
Okay.
Then it makes sense to go to some film school and spend a year doing cinematography, but not without validation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are thinking like for podcasting, filming, whatever, not right. Anything in life, like think, you just do it right. No, everything has a technical deep dive, right? There's like the angle of the microphone, there's light, there's all these different things, right? People don't realize how technical it can get, and sometimes you get too technical, right?
Yeah. And we're using the word technical, but it has a direct impact. Low angle shots. If I film you and I am using a low angle shot, I'm adding power to your person. Whatever you say, the viewers are saying, wow, that's really powerful.
Yep.
You are not saying powerful thing. It's the camera angle which is giving power to what you're saying. You can say the exact same line, and if the camera is above you, over your head, you are a low angle, suddenly you are weak and meek and
then depending on what type of music you add.
And it doesn't matter what you add.
Yeah.
You cannot add power if the camera is above your head.
Okay.
You add whatever music you want to add.
Doesn't matter, okay.
It's not going to get the power. That's why if you notice films, wherever the character is in the position of, like for example, if you're showing, let's say there's a scene of a boardroom and the CEO is talking, mostly you will notice the camera is low angle shot.
Yeah, you're right.
And let's say if the CEO is going to fire somebody, the minute you show that person who is in the weak position, camera goes up. If you see all of the torture scenes, any of the torture scene in a police station or gangster, look at Godfather. I mean, all of these, the Godfather angle almost always low angle shot, because that's where the power is concentrated. You want to show that power, but how do you translate technical things? Lighting, backlit has a certain effect. We can redo this room completely, just doing the lighting, nothing else, and suddenly people will perceive you differently. They'll say, I think I've never met Jason, but he sounds like a very strict man. Or somebody might say, he really is very cool, happy guy. Same thing, you're the same person, you're not changing your dialogue, you're not changing your personality, it's just the play of the lighting. So I think it's all technical, but it communicates. Technical decisions communicate emotions, feelings, anger, anxiety. It all comes from that. And that I think is a very powerful thing about filmmaking.
So filmmaking is a relatively new industry, right? Mm-hmm. Has anything changed recently? Filmmaking or filmmaking pace has been the same thing since the beginning of filmmaking?
Well, I think a lot of things are changing in filmmaking. One of the things is that the industry has really opened up. So back in the day, it would be very hard to make a film unless you have established studio and big actors. One of the things that has changed is the the stories. If you have a good story, you should make a film. And a good story is a story that people connect with. And the other thing that has happened is that the old way of filmmaking was, oh, I have to make a film, then I have to release on a big platform, and millions of people have to watch. If you have 500 people who can watch your film several times, if you have an audience of 2,000 people, make a film. You can make money, and they will watch it over and over, and they will then recommend it to other people. So we have, in some ways, and I think the credit goes to, again, social technology, social media. It's so much easier for me to connect with people like me. If I see a film and I like it, I'm going to send it very quickly in a matter of minutes to about 200 of my friends, and who I know will also like the film. So that tribe of like-mindedness are very organized because of technology, which was not the case back in the day. You may have loved my film, but you were not connected to 200 other people who you knew would also like it, so you were not able to recommend it. So recommendation has become easy, which means that we can make very low budget film with good stories and still make it financially viable.
On the podcast, a lot of times I tell people, hey, you should come to the podcast. Like, no, I'm boring, I have nothing to tell. I was like, dude, everyone has a story to tell, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has a story to tell. You might not think you do, but everyone has some kind of story to tell. Everyone has lived some type of interest in life.
I think the definition of story has also evolved a lot. I mean, back in the day, you had to be super dramatic, something great had to happen, and something bad, like really superlative. But that's not the case anymore. I think I totally agree with you. We all have some stories, and stories stick with us. As one of the poets said, stories are the most important currencies of our time. Right?
So one thing I've always wanted to do, but I'm scared too. I've always wanted to get some random homeless person in the neighborhood and bring up, like how does this happen to you? Like what decisions you make, right? But I'm so scared, like my window here's glass. There's glass outside this sir that they'll come in and the next couple of days they'll come break in and steal my stuff, right? It's probably not a rational thought, but yeah, I can't afford that, But I would love to get some random, random dude off the street. Hey, like how did you come to this situation, right? I think it'd be a very good story to tell, but yeah.
That'll be a great story, and I think there have been a lot of stories on homeless people, stories that have humanized the the grit and resilience that homeless people anywhere in the world are not a homogeneous population. That's one of the mistakes that people make. And you and I make that. We say homeless people. There is no such thing as homeless people. There are all kinds of homeless people.
Yeah.
I have met homeless people who have become homeless only in the last 2 months. All their life they had a house of their own.
Yeah.
They had a family. They had children who went to college. They went to college, and something unfortunate happened.
Yeah.
They lost a partner who was the primary breadwinner, and they had some health issues, and they didn't have a health insurance, and all of their money just got spent on their health issue. So also a homeless person who is 70-year-old on a wheelchair is very different from a 20-year-old homeless person who is on drugs and who had some
big difference.
And
they both need different solutions.
They're different solutions, and there are different level of engagement with them, and therefore people who are listening, I mean, homelessness as an issue, as a problem, is very close to my heart. It breaks my heart partly because I grew up in India where homeless people were not dangerous. They were not perceived as dangerous or harmful. Even today, I can go to India in the middle of the night. I can go to the streets and just sit with some of the homeless people, and I have no fear. They don't hurt. US is more complicated because homelessness is also often associated with having a firearm, having mental health issues, being violent. You're combining a lot of bad things together, and I totally understand. But I wish I could do something to remove the stigma around homelessness. Homeless people are very diverse, like all of us are. There are men who murder. There are women who steal. We are very diverse. You have to know who are you talking with. So in the same way, when we talk of homelessness, we have to know who you're talking with. Don't stigmatize homelessness. Don't just paint everybody in the same. There are some amazing, decent, hardworking people who want to contribute to the community, and they have great stories, and they're just wonderful people. They have amazing stories. They're intellectually very stimulating. But because there is this blanket characterization of, oh, homeless people are dangerous, They are going to break into your house. They'll steal you. They'll hurt you. They'll shoot you. That that takes away so much from. It takes away so much humanity from us. Somebody could have been your great friend. Somebody you could have helped within your means. You could have made one or two introductions to that, and that person's life would have changed. You didn't do it because you were sold this idea that this is a dangerous person, and he was not or she was not. So yeah, I totally agree with you. It's not easy to
Yeah.
dig those stories, especially in this environment where things are
So
so
next,
easily stigmatized.
talk about your role with a company called Tasvir. It was the only Oscar qualifying South Asian film festival in the world.
Yeah, I'm happy. Right here, we're in the city now, and Tasveer is a film festival. It's a South Asian film festival. It is the only Oscar qualifying South Asian film festival in the world. So the short film that win at film festivals or Tasveer Film Festival automatically gets qualified for Oscar. So they don't have to separately apply, and they can just get picked up by Oscars. Tasveer has also actually just won the Mayor's Award in Seattle.
Yeah, I saw that. You did. I think you reposted something on
I-
LinkedIn
yes,
earlier. Yeah, I
must
saw
have
that. Yeah.
posted it several times.
Yeah.
I'm actually going. Tasveer is also so. Tasveer is a non-profit. It's a 501c3. It's a film festival. It's engaged in raising and amplifying the South Asian voices in our city and in this part of the world and across the world. Tasveer has also just bought Arc Lodge Cinema in Columbia City, so it has its own home now, and it has 4 theaters. I'm on the board, and as a board, we are working to transform that space into our home. So we will be there now as a non-profit will be housed there. But it has 4 theaters. We want to use one theater for showing South Asian film. We want to use the other theater to show other kind of film, other cultures. I'm also on the outreach committee, so we want to open up the doors of our space. It's a precious, wonderful space, very diverse community. Columbia City, where the cinema is located, I am told it's one of the most diverse zip codes in the country. About 33 languages are taught at the public school system there. So we want to leverage all of this. We want to open the doors to the local nonprofit. People like you should come and hang out with us and do some event with us. I would love our local schools to come and invite their schools to come and do some event. I would love our non-profits that are focusing on social justice and homelessness, and find some ways so that we tell stories in a way that has an impact in the local community, and we are able to solve some of these problems.
So this is probably an ignorant question, right? But of course we have Hollywood here. India has Bollywood. Why do you think India got Bollywood? Why come Bollywood isn't like like France or England? Or why do you think India has a culture like bringing like a Bollywood to India?
Well, it's very interesting. The idea of Bollywood is very popular because Bollywood is the largest producer of films in the world. India overall produces more films than US and Canada combined. Just the sheer amount of production is mind-boggling. But India has a long history of storytelling, and if you remove the cinema, if you remove the film industry, the word industry is very interesting. Industry is a very commercial word. Uh, if you take away all of that industry part away from India, India has a robust storytelling. My mom used to tell me stories all the time. When I was a kid, when I was in middle school, I would play in the park, and random people will come and just start telling things about the city, and we would listen. We'll ask questions, just like storytelling. It was very core part of it. Then we have this idea. There's a long tradition. One of my friends in India, he's reviving this art called Dastan Goi. Dastan means story. Goi is the art of telling story. Then we have these religious texts which are performed. So Ramayana, Mahabharata. These are religious texts. These are people who are religious. They actually believe this text as their truth, and a lot of their religious rituals are coming from this book. But also, if you look at these texts and see how much they are performed, so Ram Leela is performed. They are characters of Ram and Lakshman, and we perform them. Similarly, we burn every year. The Shera is celebrated as a way to show the triumph of good over evil, and we burn the effigy of this bad guy called Ravan. it's very performative. It's a lot of performance there, and I think that's where the stories come from. And because it is very collective culture, people are together all the time. And to your question of why do we need entertainment, because life is just very painful without entertainment and stories. I mean, can you imagine? You have lots of people and nobody's getting entertained. We'll become more violent. We'll become more selfish. We'll move away from each other. And that, I think, partly is being explained by many of the philosophers and writers in the US. One of my favorite is Robert Putnam. He wrote a book in the early 2000s called Bowling Alone, where he argued that American democracy is not possible if Americans don't hang out together. And he interviewed 500,000 people, one of the largest set of interviews ever for a book. And the book has now been converted into a documentary on Netflix. It's called Join or Die. And the basic argument is that, and it's very interesting that he connected human relations, American human relation, with American idea of democracy. He could have left that out, but he said, no. American democracy cannot exist without Americans hanging out with each other. And one of the things that bothered him back in the day, long before the social media and all of the data we had, he was looking at data like people volunteering at Habitat for Humanity. He was looking at Rotary membership. He was looking at church membership. All kinds of and bowling, the title of his book is Bowling Alone, and he spoke a lot about bowling as a sport that Americans used to get together. Back in the day, Americans, it was not the sport so much. It's not that they love bowling. There's nothing particularly great about bowling as such, but the great thing about bowling is that it brought people together. All friends came together, families got together, neighbors got together, and they played this sport together. That was the unique part. And he argued that because of this declining number of social interaction, that we're not meeting each other enough, we're not seeing each other enough, it is becoming more and more possible and easy to divide us, and we can see that the amount of social divisiveness that we have in the US today. He spoke about it back in the day without internet, when there was no internet, and he looked at the society's declining environment where Americans were seeing each other more often. So what he was saying is that Jason and Syed are good friends, but they are on the opposite spectrum of political spectrum, and yet they would respect each other. Why? Because they have enough common ground. They volunteer together at Habitat for Humanity. They go to the same church. They run this soup kitchen. So they had enough common ground. Just having a different political opinion doesn't break their relationship.
Yeah,
Which went away. He said, if we lose all of this common ground, what is the common ground? Hanging out in the church, volunteer work, running a soup kitchen, volunteering for a local non-profit. Those were the common ground. And so that gave me enough to say, Jason and I are not on the same page as far as politics is concerned, but he's my friend, he's my neighbor. I'm not going to shout at him. I will not tolerate anybody insulting him. I will never insult him. We are bonded together. So we could coexist happily, peacefully, even when we had opposite, diametrically opposite political opinion. What Putnam was saying, that if we lose this, then all we are left with is political opinion. I don't like you, Jason. I hate you. I'm going to abuse you online. Why? Because all you and I have is politics, and you are on the opposite spectrum. So all I have is just, I have to fight.
Yeah,
there's nothing else to bank on.
Yeah.
But that social glue went away. And it went away pretty recently.
Yeah.
When Putnam was talking about, that was the beginning. He was just noticing, the church membership is going down. Parents are not meeting each other enough at parents-teachers meeting. We are not volunteering enough. We are not joining clubs like Rotary Club. He was really warning us. I mean, his book is so prophetic in that sense. He saw that nobody else saw coming in a huge, clear way, and he wrote that fat book. Highly recommend. Bowling Alone, Robert Putnam. The documentary is called Join or Die on Netflix.
I mean, how times do you hear like on social media, if you vote for X, don't be my friend, right?
Yeah.
Like you were never my friend then, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Or you don't do this, don't do that. I don't know how we get back to that point where we used to be before. I don't know if we're like too far gone. I don't know. Hopefully we're not.
Yeah, I think social capital has to come back. We need to recognize that there's a poet, one of my favorite poets. He said something like, and I'm translating in English. He basically said that when you see a person, no, he said every person is a collection of 20%. When you see somebody, see it 10 times before you judge. And that perspective is so important. You are not one person. You're a lot of person. And I may not like one of you, but that doesn't mean I just say there all time.
Yeah, people are so complicated, right?
Yeah,
We're like
we're
we're not like
progress.
you're not just not a Republican Democrat. You're not this. You're like you're one, two, three, four, five things, other experiences, and
Yeah.
people don't realize that.
Yeah, and we are work in progress. I mean, there's another book on startup communities, which I love so much, and in that the author is basically saying that you have to know that you are not a one person. You are a community of self. He used that expression, his expression, community of self, which basically means that what you were 5 years ago, you're not the same person. But that perspective still exists in you. You knew who you were. Then you changed. So that change version added to that. So you had this old self, then you became a new self, you added to it. And we keep doing it. We keep adding new self to ourselves. So we are in a way a community of self. And it's so important for us to look at each other as a community and not as just one person. Oh, I don't like Jason today because I have to look at your environment, where you're coming from. And unless we do stuff together, unless we do, which Robert Putnam would say, unless we, community-based work, he was looking at very community-centric work. I think we won't be able to glue us together. We'll be permanently broken in our relationship, but we have to glue it back. Social capital has to come back, and we have to recognize that there is more to what I'm seeing, and we have to give that. I have to be open to the idea that I don't know Jason fully. I have to tell myself, if you say something that hurt me, I have to get home and say, yes, I got hurt, but maybe there is something in Jason that I don't know, which I would fall in love with. And that would keep the relationship. We are too judgmental and we're taking too quick decisions about each other.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
What you were saying, unfriending, the syndrome, that did not exist. I mean, there was no such thing as unfriend. Robert Putnam's book also talk about, you couldn't unfriend your neighbor. How would you unfriend your neighbor? He's your neighbor.
Yeah.
You have to live with him.
You're gonna see him at least once a week.
And you will see the same person in the church. You will see the same person in the audience.
So you're gonna unfriend him, never speak to him again? Like, how does that work?
How do you do that?
Yeah.
You can't do that. That was an understanding. But today, for some reason, we have come to believe that, yeah, I can unfriend you. Jason, I've unfriended you. Now I don't want to see you.
That is a word concept. Now you talk about, that is a word concept.
Yeah. Yeah, we are work in progress, I think. And when you see other people as work in progress, they see you as work in progress. And there is more kindness, there is more forgiving, there is more forgetting, and there is more like, all right, it's in past tense, let's go have some coffee together, let's walk together. And what movie are you watching? What book are you? It's easy to move on, and rebuild the relationship. But if you have nothing else to talk about, if all you have is just one linear, narrow, black box of politics, that's all you have, then it becomes hard to forgive and forget and move on and talk about other things.
So back to your relationship for a minute, right? Isn't there like this major religious event in India where everyone goes to this river, like goes in a river or something? What is that called?
Yeah,
that's like a major religious event in India, right?
It's a big part. The rivers overall, I'll zoom out a little bit here. Rivers are treated as very sort of religious entities. They're not just bodies of water. Like two of the biggest rivers in India, and many more actually, where Ganga and Yamuna are treated as mothers. So we often say Ma Ganga, Mother Ganga. Ganga is the name of the river. So when people die, this is specifically to one religion, when they die, it is very sort of, it is considered very religious for people who have died to take their body and immerse them in these divine rivers, Ganga or Yamuna or Saraswati. There are lots of rivers. So rivers, again, as an entity, it's not just it's not a water body. It's way more than that. It's a nourisher. It gives you sustenance. it protects you and your community. It basically is your sustainer. So there is this element of being grateful to the river, and they're all very, in many scriptures, they are being described as mothers and your sustainer and deities and all kind. So what you are referring to is, when people die, their bodies are immersed, and that it is said that if you immerse the remains of the person who died, then that person achieves a more peaceful afterlife, and that it's more soothing to that person. And again, it goes back to the again another idea of, that this life is not the only life. There's life after life, and that you will come back. This idea of, that you're in this life you're born as a human, but in the next life you might be born as hummingbird. And what would decide what you come back to life, in what form, it would be decided by your acts. And acts are how good you are as a person, honest, kindness, but also when you die, in what way are you treated. So all of that collectively decides in what form you'll come back. So this is all very, it's very nuanced and very complicated rituals involved. Certain days, certain nights are more religious than others. Certain months are more religious. The wedding season, for example, in India is, there are certain times when the stars are aligned. And I grew up in Delhi. February, for example, is one of the craziest months, because it would not be uncommon for you to go to Delhi in February and have like 150,000 weddings happening in the town, in that city. Why? Because that month is considered aligned for people to come together, which is where marriages, and the stars are aligned and the galaxies are aligned, and there are these priests who will tell you, oh Jason, you want to get married, okay, great, don't get married to such and such person on such and such date, and don't wear that color, don't be in that building. So it's very sort of nuanced set of beliefs. It comes from religion.
I know religion, like, I know a lot of people like very religious. They believe whether they're Christian, Catholic, whatever it is. But I don't think people don't realize, like, where you're born at has so much to do with your religion, right? Like, if you're like, I don't think there's very many, Roman Catholics in, Saudi Arabia, right? I don't think people realize how much influence your parents have on you, your culture, like your local, like, yeah.
Yeah, again, that's where the collective and individualistic culture comes. Here, it is very common. In America, it's not. I wouldn't be shocked if somebody said, "Yeah, I was born in such and such religion, but I didn't like it. I liked other religion, so I became, I converted. I went there." You rarely find that in India, because it's so collective. You're born into a family which has a religion, and that stamp is put on you every day. You go to the temple with your parents. You wear certain clothes, you celebrate certain festivals. So it's very hard for you to move away from that. Some people do, but it's rare, very rare. Here because it's that collective culture, it kind of is so, in many ways, it influences you so much. Whereas, here, parents are fine. If I'm Catholic and my child doesn't want to be at my country too much, what can I do?
So next, talk about your volunteer role at the World Trade Center at Tacoma as India ambassador.
The World Trade Center, again, is a wonderful international body. We have one in Tacoma as well that takes care of Tacoma and Pierce County. In fact, bigger region. And the goal of World Trade Center is to promote international trade. Again, international trade is an economic growth booster. It brings jobs. It brings it infuses capital in the local economy, and it also builds intercultural communication and relationship with other countries. America is very dependent on trading partners. I mean, we import a lot of things, and sometimes we import certain thing and then we add value to it, and that's when it becomes valuable. But you still need that stuff. So World Trade Center is actually an organization that promotes local communities to engage in international trade. Of course, the emphasis is to export, because that brings more capital and more foreign investment, but also import, because sometimes you import and then add value, and that creates more economic wealth.
So how do you personally define innovation? What is it? What does innovation mean to you?
I think innovation just means creating a new use of something that already existed. Uh, Cars always existed. There were cars, there were taxis, they were always been there. Homes were always there. People lived in hotels and they went to their friends and families. But what Uber and Airbnb are innovation because they use the existing concept and existing resources, but they created something new. They gave you a platform. They say, okay, if you want to order Uber, instead of calling your taxi person, you can go on this app and get it. So in many ways, innovation is anything that creates a new value from what was already existing. It's unlike invention or discovery, which did exist completely. Aluminum didn't exist. Somebody invented it. We didn't know there was such a planet. Somebody invented it. Or discovery, discovery or invention in case of planet. Innovation, I think, is it's very interesting because it allows you to innovate from the existing pool of things, depending on what is needed. You know, and again, it goes back to the problem-solving issues. It was not easy to get a taxi. It was very difficult to get a taxi.
Let's be honest, it was freaking horrible.
It was horrible. It was expensive, and hotel industry.
Yeah.
Again, they are there.
Yeah.
But it's expensive.
Yeah.
And it's so much of back and forth. I have to log in so many
Just
times,
horrible
call.
user experiences.
If I want to change my hotel reservation, good luck. So suddenly, somebody thought, well, I can make it easier and solve it. I've been thinking about something, that some might consider an innovation is, you service things. If you buy a car, and if your car breaks down, you go and fix it. It's a common thing. Laptop, you fix it. We fix things. Why do we not fix movies? Why is it that we make a movie and we release it and it doesn't do well? Let's just say it flops, nobody watches it. And I'm like, why don't we do the same approach? We say, okay, we made this film, people didn't like it, something was wrong in it. Let's go back and fix it and re-release it. We already have a ton of footage. Something is missing. Let's create that something, add to it, and then do it. Why don't we do it? Why don't we service movies?
I'm gonna guess because it's cost.
It's much cheaper.
Yeah.
Because you have filmed the whole thing already, right? You have all of the
Just
raw
like
footage.
recut it, whatever.
You have done the editing. You have all the footage. You have everything in place. You have released it. People have not liked it. So now, unlike before, when you had made the film but you had not released it, you didn't know whether people were gonna like it or not. People didn't like it. You can go and ask people,
Yeah.
why did you not like it?
Yeah.
What did you not like about it? And people will tell you that. You don't even have to ask. People write reviews. They'll give you 1 star and they'll write you and tell you this sucked, the overacting, story was. Just fix it. And that I would love to do that. That's one of my dream innovation projects.
That's another startup for you.
That's another thing I want to put.
Go
put
pick the 10 worst movies in 2024.
10
redo them.
movies and go back and get all the footage and try to fix it and ask people how can we fix it, and people will tell you. And that's that's another advantage we have is this open communication with vast number of people. Go write a blog or tweet and people will write. I posted something on a Facebook, 70, 80 people wrote on it. When was that possible? That's a lot. 70, 80 people who know you and they're giving you very focused without you asking too much. You posted something, they will like it and comment. Then you go to them and ask them, they'll give you feedback. So it's so much easier now to improve things. I don't know why we are thinking so old-fashioned way. Oh, I made a movie, it didn't go well, I'm going to forget about it, I'll make a new movie. No, let's fix that one and see if we can do it at 1/10 of the price.
So the terms innovation and creative, right? Are those interchangeable or creative innovation like two separate terms, two different things?
I think they're interchangeable, Jason. People can, if you talk to academics, they will probably differentiate it. But from practical purposes, from practical point of view, I think innovation, and it's very hard to be innovative if you're not creative. It's very difficult to be creative because, as I said, in my definition of creativity is anything new that you have created which did not exist and it has value. I mean, I can make, I can puncture the bottle and it didn't exist before. Now we have a punctured bottle, but it has no use. It has to have a use. It has to have a utility. Somebody has to take it and say, now it's useful. That to me is creativity or innovation. But from the world that I'm coming from, I use it interchangeably, and I think they solve some problems, they add some value. They are practically same to me.
So next, can you talk some about your experience immigrating to the U.S. from India and like give any lesson learned to anyone who might be thinking about immigrating from India to the United States?
Well, if you're thinking of immigrating, I mean, first of all, immigration process is a very complicated process. You can't, for example, in many cases, in fact, in most cases, it's very organic. People don't sit in India and say, all right, next year I'm going to go to immigrate to US. That's not how it works. You don't decide it. What happens is you look for a job and say, oh, this job came up and I'm going to apply for it and I have to be in Seattle. And then you come here, then you live long enough, and then your visa process allows you, and then you grow your roots and then you stay. And then you become immigrant. It's not a very, in some cases actually it does happen, but specifically America, I don't think it happens. But in other countries which have more open immigration policy, Canada, for example, has a very clear policy. Canada has been saying, now they have shut down a little bit because I guess their needs are fulfilled, or they don't need it as much. But back in the day, my uncle went to UK in the 60s, and UK was just calling people left, right, and center. Come live with us. We'll give you the citizenship. Come do jobs here. And this is what we're looking for. If you're looking for if you want to become a math teacher, we're looking for you. Please come. That's what my uncle read in a village in India, and he read it in a local newspaper, and he didn't believe it. He said, "This is unbelievable, but I'll try. Give it a shot." And he spoke to his local school
He
principal.
was like, this must be a scam.
He said, "This is a scam. Please don't give my job away to anybody." He was doing some private tuition 10, 20 miles away. He went and spoke to the parents of the kids. He said, "Look, this sounds like a scam. Please don't give your child, tuition job to anybody else. I'm gonna try this. I don't think it's gonna work, but I'm more than likely to come back. Please keep my job." This is in the village, like a really remote village. And he came to London in the 60s. He got a job.
I mean, this thing occurred your uncle had to do that, right?
Yeah.
There's no internet, no nothing going on back then. Like the courage to do that, right?
What was the downside? What was the downside?
Yeah.
And in fact, he already knew the down. He knew his perception was it's all scam. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just give it a try. I've already secured what I have.
yeah.
I'm not going to lose what I have.
If I go to London, I waste all this time, money,
He didn't think too much about the money, but he was just a young man who graduated from college. Very few people, like less than 0.5% of people graduated from college in that village. He was very lucky that his father was very encouraging of him studying. He invested in his education. It was a big deal. I mean, he was a star of the village because he went to college and passed second division. So when he came, he started off as a teacher. Then he got some job. Then he started a business. Then he got some teaching opportunity in Africa as well from the government program. So he was paid his London salary and the salary in Nigeria. He took that up. He went there. And then, but if you look back, he wasn't like thinking there, I want to migrate to US. I want to migrate to UK. Most people don't do that. I didn't do it. Most people I know didn't do it. We think of other things. I wanted to study abroad. I applied for a fellowship. I got the fellowship. I chose US to study because US has one of the best communication programs. And I studied. I met my wife on my college. We were both studying together. We fell in love. We got married. And I wanted to go back home. So I said, I don't want to live here. I want to go back home. I miss home. And so we went back. She came with me to India. We lived there for 5 years. And then, all kind of things happened in Delhi. Some medical issues happened. She had asthma. Delhi is a very polluted city. With that in mind, I thought maybe we could take a break. Why don't we move back to where your family is? And you can stay there and sort of recover from this crazy environment of Delhi. That's how it all started. At no point did I sit there and say, I'm going to migrate to US. No, very few people do that for US, because US is one of those countries which is not like, hey, you can apply and do it. It's a long process. I mean, it takes decades for green card holders. When you get from the journey from being an immigrant to a green card is a long legal paperwork journey. Then having a green card and then becoming a citizen, that itself it's really a bureaucratic journey, lots of paperwork, lots of money spent on it. People don't really do that. But I could just speak, in general, my experience of being an immigrant. And US is, we are lucky that US has that long tradition of immigrants. It's such that idea of melting pot.
Yeah.
I don't know if it still is there, but the idea that it was there and people did believe in it. The idea of American dream and it's attracting all kinds of people is there. And that I think is such a powerful thing. That's one of the innovation
Yeah.
of America. People don't think of that. Not very many countries have managed to do that. Very few. America also hosts the largest number of international students.
Yeah.
How long we would do it, I don't know. Given
That's one thing I always found interesting. Like in America, we always say, our elementary, junior high, high school are so horrible, they suck so bad, but yet we get the best and brightest for our colleges, right? To me, that's always been a disconnect. How can our public school be so horrible, but yet our colleges attract so many bright students around the world?
Yeah, and I have a perspective on that, and I agree with you that the conditions of most of the public schools are very bad. But the fact that you have such a robust public school, people don't know this because they haven't I lived in a country where public education is non-existent at school level. In India, it's true today. It was true 50 years ago. It was true 70 years ago, pre-independence. It has always been true. If your child is going to a government school, which is a public education, you're basically poor. That's a sign of poverty. You don't have money. And because public school system, barring one or two cities and states, it's really nothing. There are no teachers. There's no blackboard. There's nothing. It's basically a social program where if you're very poor and you enroll your kid in a public school, the midday meal program is there, so your child will get 2 meals for free. You will get some books for free. You'll get some clothes for free. That's what this whole public education system is, which means there is no interaction of people. Rich people are going to these rich schools, and that's why the private education is very robust. I grew up in a lower middle class family. The school I went to, and my 3 siblings, my 2 sisters, my brother, and I. My father was lower middle class family. He was not rich by any stretch, but he was middle class. He had a job. He was a government employee, and he wanted his kids to go to school. And because he knew that government school basically don't exist, they are not a school at all. They won't study anything there. My father could afford a private school for all his kids, but that private school was, and even today, a private high school or any school, middle school, can cost anywhere between $20 a month, $50 a month, all the way to $5,000.
And that's big money, right?
To $5,000.
Yeah, that's big money in India.
I mean,
and
from
third
$50 to $5,000, depending on what kind of socioeconomic condition you come from. But it exists. In US, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
If your kid is going to private school, $30,000, $40,000 a year, you are not middle class by any stretch.
No,
you are in the 1%.
Yeah.
What is your other choice? Your kid goes to public school. What I love about public school system is that it democratizes us in exposure. It's not a ghetto. That's one of the serious problems that I've seen in countries like India and other countries where the public education system, however good or bad, we can argue on the quality of it. But the fact that it exists, the fact that I can send my kid to a public school and my kid will interact with somebody who is a janitor, whose family is a janitor, or somebody who is a vice president of some fancy company. My kid will have this whole exposure that I will go and talk to these different parents. That doesn't exist in very many countries. In the world where I'm coming from, but if you go to, in Europe, there are some amazing examples. Finland is a great example. Norway, Denmark, Germany, they have really built social equity into their education system and they have solid systems. But despite all of the weaknesses of public education system in America, because I have seen what it means to have a private system where you plug and play, you can afford $100 a month, your kid goes to this school. You can afford $500 at school, $5,000 IB school. And then your kid is going to go to Italy for some 5-day of culinary art. And that what it does is, and I've seen it, it creates a ghetto. Our kids become very ghettoized. So if your kid is going to a high school, which is $5,000 a month, and my kid is also going to the same school, then you and I are same people, right? We're driving the same car, we think alike, we're probably in the same club, we go to Europe every year for vacation. We are a little ghetto, we are in a little bubble. Then we hang out together, our kids hang out together, and we have nothing to do with the rest of the other $50 a month, $500 a month. That's a problem. That's
Yeah.
a serious problem, and that's why this idea of privilege, society within the societies are dominating, and people are just this idea of victimhood all the time. My kid doesn't go there, and this contempt against other fellows because you see them, from such a such a long distance. Your kid is barely able to, wait. You're waiting for the bus, and here is somebody who come. That wedding that happened, $600 million wedding in India. You saw that. That was such a outrageous thing to happen. I wish it hadn't happened, and I bet it would not happen if India had a robust public education system. There would be some level of sensitivity. At least they could have spent $600 million in this on their son's wedding, but the way it was done in a full view of public,
Yeah.
I think it would be.
It was a bit much.
There would be a little bit of sensitivity.
Yeah,
that.
it was a bit
I'm
much.
a father. I want to do whatever I want to do for my son, but I want to be sensitive to this
Yeah.
society that I live in, where people are barely making, you know, people are living on $1 a month.
Yeah.
No, $1 a day. They don't have drinking water. The children are being sold. Child trafficking is rampant. There's a non-profit called Free the Slaves. Literally slaves. These are kids who are enslaved. They are tied with chains, and they're working in brick industry. They're not fed. They're not allowed to go anywhere. They're sexually assaulted. They're beaten. This is the situation. This is what is happening in the country. And then you have somebody who is just throwing $600 million. So I think I love the idea of public education. I totally agree with you that the processes and the systems are not in place. I wish it was more productive in terms of its systems, so that it was not so wasteful and bureaucratic. But the idea of public education, that you can make $500,000 a year, and I'm making $50,000 a year, but we both believe in that school enough that you send your kid there and I send their kid, and we get to hang out each other, and our kids get to hang out. That's the idea of public education, and I hope. I think in Tacoma, for example, my kid has gone to 3 schools now, and all 3 two public schools. One was a play school, but I love the idea.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that he's going to public school. I would never want him to go to a private school because I have that good public school system. Because I worry about him. I don't want my kid to have any kind of superiority complex. I don't want him to look at people and say, oh, they don't have this, we have this, or we live in this neighborhood and we have that car, or I can wear this fancy. I don't want any of that. That would be the ultimate failure of me as being a father. And if I were in India and my brothers and sisters are in India and their kids go to private school, when I go meet with them, I always ask them these questions. Who are your friends? Have you met their dad? I ask my brother, have you met your daughter's parents? Your daughter's friends' parents when you went to the teacher's parents meeting? Did you invite them? Did you go to their home? And sometimes I can tell that it's not happening. There's difference.
So you have a quote that I really like, right? The quote is, originality is a function of courage.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Well, originality is a function of courage. I commented that on a few things. If you read, there are 2 books that I really want to mention here, amazing books on the same idea. One is called Originals by Adam Grant. It's a lovely book. He's a professor at University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School. And the other one is called Range, David Apstein. Originality is a function of courage. It's very hard to create anything original if you are not prepared to fail, and if you're not prepared to do lots of things which are bound to fail. So the originality, it's very hard. Take Shakespeare. You and I talk about Shakespeare because of a minority of the work that he did. If you look at the entire body of work that Shakespeare produced in his life, 70% was trash. It was just crap. He didn't like it. Nobody liked it. Never got published. They never saw the light of the day. But it was that exercise and that strength, that courage to keep producing, trash after trash after trash, that you reach a point where you, Emily Dickinson is the same. Uh, some of the, name some of the biggest painters. They were not able to sell. Emily Dickinson's work was never published. Some of it was never published, never read. After she died, almost all of her work was read and appreciated. And similarly, what I'm saying is that it requires a lot of courage to be creative, and the courage is required because your initial work will be boring. It will be, it will not have traction. People will criticize it. People will not read it. People will certainly not publish it. But you have to keep going, and that requires courage. And this has been documented in lots of work. I mean, you pick up any filmmaker, you pick up any writer, author, painter. It's just a function of courage. People who have courage, who can just keep going without being bothered about what people are saying and what people are criticizing, and they keep producing instead of overthinking about the work being produced and being criticized. If they can tell themselves, I produced this, people didn't like it, I don't care, I'm going to produce something else, I'll improve upon it, and they keep doing it, that's when we get original work. We would not have gotten sonnets from Shakespeare if he had not produced the whole bunch of trashy, the kind of Macbeth would not have come into being. That character, that fine-tuning on characters, storylines,
I mean, what's called working on your craft correctly. You got to work on your craft over and over again.
And you have to be prepared to fail. You basically have to take it as a default. When you're trying to produce something original, you're going to fail. You're going to make bad decisions, wrong decisions. You'll have bad partners. You will have partners who are not worth your partnership, who are not worth your trust. You will, you will overspend. You will, all kinds of bad decisions will happen. But if you're courageous, none of it will stop you. You'll move on. Okay, didn't work out. I'll go to the next one. You keep knocking on the door, as they say. Keep going, and all of them have Shakespeare did not stop. Some of the poets did not stop. Their work was never published. And for Van Gogh, Van Gogh, nobody bought his work.
No, I mean he was a failure during his. He was a failure during his lifetime, right?
Work. Almost everything came to us after he died.
Yeah.
So but he kept producing it. He kept doing it. Similarly, Emily Dickinson is one of my favorites. It was all found when she died.
Yeah.
And
isn't that sad though? That's so sad.
It's very sad. But imagine she could have stopped doing the work. That amount of work that she produced when nobody read it, nobody saw it, nobody appreciated it. There was no Twitter, there was no link, there was nothing. She was just writing in her, and that required courage for her to keep going in the face of zero visibility, zero appreciation, zero acknowledgement. But she had produced a lot. There was enough for us to discover. My goodness, look all of the work she produced.
Yeah.
And love and honor and let it shape our life so much.
Oh, just like that Stoic philosopher, the Imperial Marcus Aurelius, supposedly those are personal journals, right? He had no intention of anyone reading it at all.
Yeah.
Just all personal journals and, yeah.
But you can't write one or two journals.
No, you have to write
just
a lot.
imagine that it's going to become a master. You have to write a lot.
Yeah.
Writing is a physical exercise. It requires, it's like exercising. It's like running, it's like weightlifting. It's not just
you gotta use that muscle every day.
You have to do it every day, and you have to keep doing it no matter what people think. You have to stop thinking about what people think. That's not easy. It's very difficult because your mind is not designed like that. You think about what people think. That's what I said about when I wrote that quote.
Yeah, that's a great quote. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen it again and again in history. You can see in history. You can see in politics, in art certainly. There's something about being courageous that triumphs all other qualities. If you're courageous, all other weaknesses will make up for that. And if you're not courageous, it doesn't mean that you will completely lose things and that doors will not open. You may not be courageous, but you're talented. You may not be courageous, but you're privileged. You may not be courageous, but you have some gift, some talent, and you will still. But it would be very difficult to be original without being courageous. That's
yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
So during our pre-talk, we talked some about the relationship between India and Pakistan, right? For
Mhm.
like I said, I don't think most people in America realize that both countries have nuclear weapons. I don't think most people in America realize that there was actually like a hot war between the two recently. Like Pakistan did something, India did some attacks, the back and forth. Can you just talk about how the relationship was like growing up in India, like the back and forth between those two countries?
Yeah, well, culturally speaking, India and Pakistan is one single culture.
Yeah.
They were used to be one country.
Yeah, people realize that
Pre,
Britain like cut them up like in
yeah,
a
yeah,
bad kind of way.
that was,
I'm a firm believer a lot of stuff in the Middle East and India can be blamed on Britain, the way they did the borders and stuff.
yeah, and I'm sure Britain will happily take the credit. They won't even call it a blame. They'll say, yeah, we did it. It was very intentional. That was part of our strategy, and we did it so successfully. And I know that some of the British, in their private conversation, they still look at it as their achievement. Well, look what we did, man. We ruled you, and then we divided you, and you are still fighting like jokers. You keep fighting with each other. We created that rift between you, and it still works. So, and I don't disagree with that. I think they certainly have the knack to make people fight in a way that they keep fighting, even when they have left.
Yeah.
But India and Pakistan culturally are very similar country. Their culture is very same, food is same. They talk almost the same languages. It's very difficult to differentiate. If you are in Delhi and then I take you to Pakistan, to Islamabad or Karachi, you won't be able to differentiate. The way people talk, the way houses are built, the way they dress, their language, their poets are common, history is very common. They're one country. But what has happened recently is also not new. India and Pakistan have gone to war several times. There have been cross-border issues for decades. I mean, ever since the division happened, many people.
And they're fine of I think something called the Kashmir region.
Kashmir,
Okay.
yeah, Kashmir is one of the regions which is sort of a bone of contention between the two countries. But just the creation, and it happens. It's when British left, they sowed this seed of insecurity and said, you guys better sort it out, otherwise it won't work out. And for some reason, back in the day, at that time, we bought that idea. Instead of telling British that, look, we'll sort it out. Why don't you just leave? If you're not able to sort it out, we'll find a way to sort it. You don't have to divide us. You don't have to do that work. That's not your work. You have ruled us, you have butchered us, you have killed us, you have looted us. Now just leave and leave our problems to us. We'll sort it out. I wish that had happened. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The lines were drawn on religion, and people on both sides bought what British sold, and as a result, we have this permanent enmity. Same people. Yeah, they're both nuclear powers, and the cross-border tension between India and Pakistan is also, you have to understand that there is a war economy. It's not the fight between the people. It's not like some average Indian is sitting there and trying to attack Pakistan.
No.
They have their own problems. They would rather not have this enmity. There is a war economy which benefit. New York Times has published an article on this when this escalation happened. In the end, many would argue that the war between India and Pakistan is really a war between US and China. Because it's a defense contract war. If India Pakistan goes to war, India is going to buy a lot of American defense equipment, and China is going to sell a lot of it to Pakistan. So it's really in the back, like a puppet show. Too big power. Unfortunately, it has happened over and over again. I think it benefits certain section of society in both countries. I mean, there is this elite that benefits when countries go to war in both countries.
Yeah, so unfortunate. So next, let's talk about Grit City. So first of all, why is Grit City a nonprofit versus a for-profit?
Well, Grit City Studio is a non-profit that has come into being very recently, and this has become a sort of a very community-driven decision. As I said, I'm very passionate about Tacoma. I think Tacoma has everything to become a film hub, and it has everything to become a creative hub where creators from all over the world can come to create their content in Tacoma. The city has a lot to offer in terms of natural beauty, artistic community, and whatnot. So when I started talking to people, there was a lot of support. I met and spoke with several council members. I met both of the candidates who are running for the mayor's office. I met with school teachers, non-profits. I met with filmmakers. We did several sessions, artists, whatnot, and everybody loved this idea of having something purely dedicated to uh, to boosting Tacoma's creative economy and branding Tacoma as a creative hub. And there are lots of grants available. We wanted to do, for example, a film course, Film Producing 101, and we wanted it to be free for all students. Now, the only way to do that is to raise grant money, and it's very difficult to raise grant money if you're a for-profit. So I didn't think about the structure in the beginning. It all came from the community, 15, 20 people who I really respect and who have been extremely supportive. They are what I call the early adopters of the idea. They said you should incorporate a non-profit, and that's what I did.
So how can someone become involved with Grid City?
They can volunteer, write to me. There are a whole bunch of things that we are doing. If you want to get involved, we are actually doing as part of the sister city, which I mentioned to you. We are doing the Festival of Light, Tacoma's first Festival of Light. It's a day-long event in October 4th, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we are doing a lot of cultural event, a lot of film screening, fashion show. If you want to get involved, let me know. Happy to work with you. Best way to reach out to me is LinkedIn. You can look me up on LinkedIn or email it to me. Syed at gobranta.com is my email. Yeah.
And so what does someone get out of being involved with Grid City? What would the person get out of it?
Well, it depends what your background is. So, for example, if you're a filmmaker, if you get involved, you can get a film project. We'll connect you to other filmmakers. If you're an artist, we are doing several artistic projects. We might buy your services. If you're a student, there are a ton of learning. There are a lot of internship opportunities, both for films and otherwise in creative economy. If you love doing events, come for the Festival of Light and get involved. There are amazing opportunities, no matter what kind of student you are, college student or high school student. This goes back to the project-based learning opportunity. And Grid City Studio is going to, whatever we do is all project-based. We do one project at a time, not one project at a time. We launch multiple projects, but you're engaged in a project, and that's where all of the learning is. A great learning opportunity.
So, what's your goal for Grid City? We'll say like 5 years out today, like 5 years, like 2030. You want Grid City to have done what?
My goal for Grid City is I have not thought of. I'm not very good in thinking 5-10 years. I'm very like what next, tomorrow, next week. That's what I really focus on. It has worked for me. It really has worked for me. It's like, it has somewhat like driving. When you're driving, no matter whether you're driving from Seattle to Tacoma or you're driving from Tacoma to California, you really are looking 200 yards ahead. That's it. If you can do that right, you can drive cross-continental. You don't have to see California when you're in there. And that approach I have applied on my entrepreneurial journey also. Some of the milestones that I have set for Grid City is that people in 5 film cities would have a formal relationship with us. So, for example, Mumbai should have a formal relationship with us. Vancouver, British Columbia should have and by formal relationship means that if they're producing something, they should think of Tacoma. When they're writing script, they should think of Tacoma location. So they should be aware of what Tacoma has to offer. They should have relationships in Tacoma. They should have a working relationship with our artists. They should have working relationship, and they should have belief in the fact that Tacoma is a well-oiled machinery. If they want to produce a high-quality content, it is in their best interest to come to Tacoma, and they will get a welcoming community. In some ways, it's also a branding exercise. We want Tacoma to be known in a certain way in a certain community across the world. In Mumbai, in Belfast, in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi, for example, I just spoke with, not too long ago, I spoke with the head of their creative department. And she is responsible to have all kind of global content produced in Abu Dhabi. And I just had a lovely conversation. I asked her, what did you do? What worked? What didn't work? How can we work together? And that's my vision. 5, 6, 7 years from now, Tacoma should become a city that creative people think of and they want to produce content. It should come as one of the top cities.
So how do y'all do outreach, right? Like, do you have a social media plan, a marketing plan? Like, how do you do outreach to the community? Say, hey, this is a great city, so this is what we're doing. Come be a part of it.
Well, there's social media. We have an Insta handle for Grid City. Again, it's all very new. We just incorporated it. But I have spent the last 16 months just one-on-one with people in Tacoma. I've met with several council members, several filmmakers. I went to India twice to build that relationship. Now we are doing Festival of Light. The best way to just you can LinkedIn, you can see Grid City on LinkedIn and send me a message, or Facebook or Instagram. But I'm not so focused on these, like this broad-based outreach. I'm not in a hurry to gather lots of followers. That's not how it worked for most of the film city. I really follow this theory of diffusion of innovation, which says that you have to have early adopters, early champions who believe in you, who will give their time and energy and financial support. And that's what I have gotten. The first 15, 20 people who told me to incorporate it into a non-profit, those are the visionaries. Those are the people who are thinking very long term. They could have all given me some money, $100, $200, $500, but they didn't do that. They said, no, it's not going to take you too far. Why don't you incorporate it? And here, reference to a lawyer, reference to other non-profit, reference to this foundation. And then I went to the same community and I said, I want to, for the last 16 months we have been working, I want to do a day-long conference where we build a shared vision based on what I have worked on and based on what you all have worked on. There are about 75 to 86 people that I personally met, and I want to bring all of them at one place over a day-long, very practical conference where we literally write down what needs to happen in Tacoma for it to become a global hub, one, and what needs to go away. There are a bunch of things that we have to get rid of. That's another big thing. You can't just keep doing things, you also have to get rid of some of them. And one simple example, one of my friends who is a filmmaker, he said, Seattle has a roaming permit. If you're a filmmaker and you're filming in Seattle, you go to the city of Seattle and they'll give you something called roaming permit. You take one permit, I think $25, and you're allowed to film in a bunch of blocks. Tacoma doesn't have it. So you spend more money and you have to take more permission. Just a bad idea. So in the conference, I would like one of my filmmakers to make a slide and say, here is Seattle, it has this cool thing, we don't have it, we need it. Copy, paste. Or there are certain other requirements that are just not the best practices. We shouldn't have those requirements.
So how supportive or non-supportive is the city of Tacoma to y'all?
I would say City of Tacoma has been pretty supportive.
Okay.
I would have gotten way more support, but I'm not going to complain because it's very new. It's too early for me to say they're supportive or not supportive. We have just started. We have just incorporated. And so far, I have gotten amazing support from council members, from communications people, from people who manage the events, from people who do lots of programming. I have gotten amazing, almost always I have gotten a yes when I ask for a meeting. People who manage the cultural vitality, public art, people met. They say, yeah, we'd love to meet you. They met, they gave me direction, they gave me contact. Too early to say it's good or bad support.
For filmmaking, do you have like a favorite genre, like drama, comedy, personal family stories? Do you have a favorite like genre of film?
Oh, personal favorite? Yeah, I love thrillers, I love romantics, I love romance, I love noir. That's one of my favorite. That noir is my favorite. But for city of Tacoma, I think we are not restricting ourselves to any kind of genre. There are, I think Tacoma has everything for almost all genres.
Is there like a minimum age for someone to be involved with, like can someone like 5th grade come, hey, I want to be a filmmaker, or is that too young?
No, I think we don't have anything for filmmakers who are that young, but the Grand Cinema is actually, my son is 12 years old and he has just enrolled in the film camp that that Grand does, and then I have another friend who runs Arts First as a non-profit. He has small kids involved, so we also want to curate all of these resources. We can't do all of it ourselves. But we want to curate and we want to encourage other people to do it. And when they do it, we can then sort of streamline some of our communities and say, hey, you want to learn film, go there. You want to be on a set, there's a film production going on there. Or you want to learn, like one of the program I'm currently working on is called Band Together, and the idea is to help young people launch their music bands. Forming a band is like starting a company. It's not easy. Just because you know how to play an instrument, that's not
personalities, right?
Personality, business acumen, economics. Most importantly, if you're forming a band, you're really getting into a long-term thing. You can't form a band and then next year one band member goes to New York to study college and one goes.
No,
You
no,
can't do that. You have
no.
to commit. You say, look, we're together. We are a band. Now we're together for 5 years. It really restricts a lot of things. You have to honor that restriction and work with it. And who should do it? I mean, why should you do it? You should do it if you love music. If you can validate that music is something you can make a career out of, don't look everywhere. It's great. I mean, live music is one of the fastest growing verticals within the music industry. And I think something happened after COVID.
Yeah, there's nothing better than live music. Live music is the best.
Live music is the best, and I think it has always been best. But something about COVID, we now honor it so much more. We recognize it, how much we need when we were all locked into our homes and there was nothing. So live music is amazing, and that's why. So that's one program, and that's for adults and youth both. There are two groups. The film program that I mentioned, film production, is also meant for youth group, high school level, and then we have adult, which could be anything.
So does the name Grit City mean anything? What's the basis for naming it Grit City?
What is the basis of Great City? Well, Tacoma is known as the Great City.
Yeah.
Tacoma is also known as the City of Destiny. I like Grit because I think grit is such an important skill to succeed. And Tacoma's personal story has been a story of grit. It kept coming back. It kept trying. The resilience that it had, and that you have to have that grit. It's very hard to transform yourself to such an extent as Tacoma did. I mean, from being one of the most dangerous cities to becoming one of the most, welcoming cities for tourism. That's not easy. To have the site that you were mentioning of how gorgeous it is, it's the same site which was stinky, which was dangerous. People were literally leaving their homes and running away from it. They never wanted to come back. And those are some kind of people, who have this attitude of, oh, it's not what I want. I want ready-made everything. It's not cool. It's not wonderful. I'm going to go away somewhere. This running away attitude. Whereas other members in the same community decided, you know what, we're going to fix it. We're not going to run away. This is our community. Our beaches are dirty. We'll clean it up. We have drug problems. We have violence problems. We'll fix it. And these people are everywhere. I mean, these people, you will find them in police department. You will find them who ran for city council. This is grit. You need to have it in you. Or you can have this escapist attitude. Oh, it's not cool enough. I'm gonna go. This user attitude.
Yeah.
I want to use it. I don't want to build it. Just give it to me. I'll use it. If I don't like it, I'll use something else. You're constantly using. That's okay. I mean, you can be one, but I'm very driven by the kind of builders community that we have in Tacoma for decades. I mean, this community has stayed in Tacoma. They have loved Tacoma. They continue to love, and they will do anything that needs to be done to transform Tacoma for the good of it.
So you talked about this some before, but you talk about you want other places. Like think of Tacoma as a film community. Like how are you going about building relationships like the other with Vancouver, Bombay? Like what's the plan to build communities or build relationships or collaborations with other places?
That's a great question. There are three specific things that we're looking at just to keep our focus right. One, we want to do co-production. So we want people in these cities where lots of content creation is happening. We want them to know that there are opportunities to co-produce things. So if you're making a film in Mumbai, great, make the film in Mumbai, make it for Indian audience, that's fine. But take a company from Tacoma who could co-produce with you. It can help you raise money, it can bring talent for you. The other is locational advantages. If you're doing a film, let's do it together. Film half of it here in Tacoma, half of it in other parts of the country, and the rest of it in Mumbai, or whatever the need of the script is. And working at the script level, writing scripts with characters and plots that might be a good fit for Tacoma. Tacoma has a lot to show. I mean, we are naturally endowed with beautiful locales. The script should demand that. There are certain scripts that will not work very well for Tacoma. Tacoma may not be a best fit. You could do it in Mumbai. Why come all the way? So somebody has to write those scripts. We want to nudge that process. And then very simply, the other is to just use each other's talent. I mean, we want to create a pool of our talent. We want our artists, set designers, actors, producers, executive producers, all organized in one place, so that if somebody comes along and says, hey, I am producing a film in India for Indian audience, let's just say, which is not what we are aspiring for, but let's just say that often happens in most of the cases. People in Mumbai are producing stuff in Mumbai for the people of India, right? We want them to say, even though it's all for Indian audience and we produce it, we would like to hire your cinematographer because we have seen his or her work, and because your cinematographer will have a very different perspective. Same camera, same lenses, but different perspective. We want to borrow that perspective and bring it into our filmmaking. That's something we want to do. So really three things: co-production, talent exchange, and locational advantages.
And like, how often have you been able to convince people from other cities to come here to Tacoma to be like on spot in Tacoma to show them everything that you have here?
Well, we have just gotten started, and we are very lucky. You know, one of the very well-known music producers in India, a music composer called Ehsan. He is part of a music group called Ehsan Loy Shankar. They are one of the top music producers in Bollywood. Some of the most memorable music in the last 2 decades has come from them. They were in Seattle performing, and I found out that Ehsan, who is the lead guitarist, has been using guitar which is manufactured in Tacoma.
Okay.
And so we used that link to get him to Tacoma.
Yes.
And of the 3 days, he spent 2 days in Tacoma. He went to the shop. We gave him a tour of Tacoma. We had lunch together. I'm working with his team for the his tech team, Raj, who I became friends with, who also came to Tacoma, bought a bunch of pickups and loved Tacoma. He and I are working together now to launch this music band program in Mumbai. Plus, I'm going to launch here in Tacoma. And then A.R. Rahman, who is 2 Academy Award winning, 2 Grammy. He is the one who composed the music of Slumdog Millionaire. He's very well known. He's probably the biggest name in music in India across 4 music industry, film industry. He's coming to Tacoma to perform on July 20th. He's performing at the Dome. 22,000 people at the Dome. I bet it will fill every seat. And then we had Veer Das, who is one of the best known stand-up comedian, Bollywood actor. He has 2 Netflix shows. He was in Tacoma. He was performing at the Tacoma Comedy Club. So we have had some, these interesting things happen. Some of it happened because of our efforts. Some of it just happened. We were lucky it happened. Like A.R. Rahman, we played no role, but he's coming to Tacoma, and we have reached out to his team to meet with us before the concert or after the concert so that we can show him the city. We want him to meet with some of the council members. One of the council members has also extended official invite to his team to meet with us. So we're just trying everything that we can do to just highlight Tacoma and show Tacoma as a welcoming community.
Nice. So is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't asked you yet, or anything else you want to talk about?
Say that again?
Is there anything I should have asked you that I have not asked you yet, or anything else you want to talk about?
No, you have been wonderful. I mean, you have covered such a length and breadth of questions. I enjoy talking with you. I would love to just invite everybody to engage. If anything that I've said appeals to you or sticks to you, sticks with you, and you want to be part of it, I want to assure you that this is a huge project. It's one of those things you do against all odds, and people tell you not to do it, or people say it's too much. There are too many moving parts. But you're adamant, this is one of those projects for me. I'm adamant. I know I will hear a lot of no's. They won't stick. I don't care about the no's. I'm just hearing every 15, 20 no's, there's one yes. And that one yes overrides all of the no's. So if you want to be a part of this very exciting project and journey, I would love for you to reach out, email me, or find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I would love to work with you. I love chai, and I think if you reach out to me, what is going to happen is you and I are going to sit down over a cup of chai at Point Ruston or wherever you are. I'll drive down and we'll have a conversation.
Nice. And so LinkedIn and Instagram is the best 2 ways to reach out to you?
LinkedIn is the best. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And last thing, you gave a lot of value, talk about a lot of things, but can you give us any wisdom or advice or anything you want to talk about?
No, I'm not very good in giving advice, but I would say just think about your story a lot. You have a story. Don't underestimate your story. Your story is a collective story of your parents, your neighborhood, your neighbors, your books you have read, documentaries you have seen, letters you have written. It's all part of your story. So don't underestimate your story. Please tell your story. Talk about yourself. Talk about the environment you grew up in, things that bothers you. Talk about it. It matters a lot when we talk about our personal things. A lot of time people shy away. They avoid talking about themselves because they think it's showing off, or it's too. I don't think it's showing off. You are at your most authentic self when you just talk about your story as your story. So please don't underestimate your stories. We might pick up one of your stories and make a movie out of it. Yeah.
Syed, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you. It was wonderful.
To our listeners, thank you for coming as well. As a reminder, the Jason Cavness Experience is brought to you by Breeze. Mention the Jason Cavness Experience and receive 3 months free usage of Breeze Docs. Also, a reminder, Cavness HR is hosting an event for Seattle Tech Week called Cavness HR Seattle's Got Tech. Thank you for your time today, and remember to be great.